What is up, everybody? Welcome to Live at the Hive. We are so privileged tonight to have folk artist Sam STEFFEN with us tonight. Super excited about this. So, in a moment, we'll introduce him. First, we just want to tell you a little bit about the Hive. It's a mental health resource. There's really affordable practice space here Live at the Hive if you want to practice. And we also have a counselor on staff, and there's a lot of resources available to the community. We have a free food pantry. There's a lot of great resources, and especially for people looking to stay sober, get sober. There are a lot of really good groups for that as well. And so we are so happy and excited to have Sam STEFFEN with us tonight. And Sam STEFFEN, everybody.
Thanks. What's gone and lost a piston like I built a kingdom just to let it fall. I mean, you can't resist from inside the system, and I'm just a little annoyed is all. I'm no cheapskate, I'm just money wise. I'm not dishonest, I just prefer a good disguise. I ain't startled, I'm just kinda surprised. I didn't know you were that kind of girl. I ain't crying, it's just raining out. I ain't hopeless, I'm just full of doubt. I don't need you, I just prefer to not be without in this God-forsaken, lonely world. But don't let it go getting your feathers ruffled. Was only so much really that you could have done. The announcer's voice coming on through the microphone was muffled. It could have happened to you or me or anyone. I swear the lengths that y'all have gone to see that I'd be deprived would almost make you think that my life weren't small. Nobody makes it out of this world alive, and I'm just a little annoyed is all. I ain't depressed, I just prefer the blues. I'm not indecisive, I just don't want to have to choose. I ain't complaining, I'm just looking to improve. Thanks, folks. It's good to be here at the Boise Hive. This is my first time here, and I'm just gonna keep on going. This is called Making It Up, which is sort of what we're doing all the time. Well, some folks will tell you if you want to be happy, well, having a plan is the only way. They'll say you gotta get all of your ducks in a row if you ever want them birds to lay. But my whole philosophy of life is you're here today and then you're gone. You might as well be making the whole thing up. see my fortune teller to learn all about my destiny. This lady in there took a hold of both of my hands, said, why don't you come over here in the light and let me have a look-see? I asked her how she could tell my future just from looking on down into my palms. She shrugged and said, honey, we're all just making it up right as we go along. About this little problem that they had. It would seem, despite discovering Christianity, folks in the church was still behaving bad. Well, Paul wrote them back, and in so many words, he said, look here now, y'all just keep calm and carry on. It was like he was making the whole thing up right as he went along. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Well, this next one is a love song that I wrote after when I was very young. I'd just gotten through a breakup and was trying to get over it, you know, move on to the next thing. But easier said than done. This is called A Series of Failed Attempts at Getting Over Loving You. Making observations, I know Orion by now and Cassiopeia, and I've a pretty good idea of where the Big and Little Dippers are. But astronomy is not for me, as anyone with eyes can see. I could watch that sky until the midnight turned to blue. And even if I knew the myths, what would they all leave me with? But another failed attempt at getting over loving you. So lately I've been reading Russian novels from the latter 19th century, mainly Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. Sometimes I think I feel the same way as some of the characters they mention, who love in violent passion and dismay, who always seem to know what's best, who get just what they want and still get depressed, who suffer, bleed, and fight and die in search of something true. Every time I reach the end, I realize that all that my reading's been. Thank you. All right. Thanks. Let's see. Here's a story that I ripped off from the Bible. There's a story about Abraham and Isaac, where Abraham is asked to sacrifice his only son, and it's kind of a difficult position to be in. I wanted to take that story and kind of turn it into like an Appalachian murder ballad kind of thing. So that's what this is. This is called, The Ballad of Abraham and Isaac. God called to Abraham, Abraham, my son. Abraham said, here I am. What is it you want done? Said Abraham, the time has come. Go and get me your dearest son. By tomorrow's setting sun, I want you to offer him up to me. Abraham, he went on home, and he sat down at his supper. Sarah asked him what he'd done. As he looked so pale and sober, he said, I ain't done nothing, that's just it. I must be dreaming or else getting sick. Think I just need to lie down quick. And he got up from the table. That night he did not sleep a wink, but he lay in his bed trying. The only thought that he could think was of his young son's lonesome dying. For his life he couldn't understand why the Lord had given him that command. Why it had to be by his own hand. He couldn't think of any reason. Next morning early he rose, well before the sun had risen, put on his hat and his morning clothes, brought along a knapsack with him. Then he stole into Isaac's room and brought him out beneath the moon. And like a corpse fresh for the tomb, Isaac went on sleeping. Said, Lord my God, I'm begging you, if ever you've been with me for what I am about to do, I hope you will forgive me. Then Isaac, who had just woken up, said, forgive you, Father, but for what? Said, son, you know I'd tell you, but myself I do not know yet. Abraham, he told his son of a journey he'd be making. Said if he chose to, he could come, though it had no destination. He said, get a mule and pack a tent, bring up some tinder and some flint. And obediently Isaac went to do just as he was bidden. Abraham, he called his son. He said, Isaac, my dear son. Isaac answered him, here I am. What is it you want done? He said, Isaac, boy, the time has come. Go and get me my Remington. It's the very best of all my guns, and offer it up to me. They rode until their shadows grew much taller than their figures. The frigid autumn evening blew leaves against dead fixtures. When the sky turned to red, Abraham to Isaac turned his head. Gather up some wood, he said. This is where we'll build the altar. And what will be our offering? Isaac asked unto his father. A lamb to kill we didn't bring. Abe said we needn't bother. He said what we brought's gonna be just fine. Hurry up now, there ain't much time. And while Isaac went for the wood to find, Abe loaded up his rifle. Well, Isaac left and then came running back. Said, Father, please come quickly. I've spied a deer in a bramble patch. It's caught up well and thickly. Abraham said, show me where. Isaac took him, said, look, see right there. Sure enough, within a snare, a healthy deer was struggling. Abe said, Lord my God, I'm begging you, if ever you've been with me for what I am about to do, I hope you will forgive me. I don't pretend to understand why it was you gave me that command, but if I do or don't, I'm damned. This is my situation. And saying that, he raised his gun, laid his cheek against the barrel. In his sights were both his dearest son and the deer so wild and feral. For a moment he observed the scene like a man who can't decide between, who needs someone to intervene to make his decision for him. From the sky no angel came to stay his quaking finger. No spirit Abraham could name brought his hot hand to the trigger. And midst the depths of his deepest doubt, shoot, Father, Isaac shouted out. And from the woods one shot rang out, followed closely by another. Whether he first shot the deer, thinking that would be sufficient, and afterward shot his boy when he realized that it wasn't, or whether he first killed his son and then himself when he realized what he'd done, or only fired twice at the setting sun. To this day there is no telling. Thank you. All right. Well, here's a song that I wasn't gonna play, but then I found out that Greg knows or knew Howard Zinn. So this is a song I wrote after I read The People's History of the United States, which is kind of telling the story of American history from the perspective of the people who've been most screwed over by it. So this is called Words, 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 or Lies My Leaders Told Me. Let's see. Yeah. 1492, Chris Columbus and his crew discovered folks living in some islands to the west. Promised to be kind, then went and changed their minds, made most of them their slaves and put the rest of them to death. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that the terms of his agreement just weren't heard. But it's a-getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the promise was just words, words, words? In 1838, Andrew Jackson did create a paper saying that the natives would receive their promised land, made a reservation zone, drove them into Oklahoma, leaving Cherokee and Choctaw blood in the Mississippi sand. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that the lion simply couldn't have endured. But it's a-getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the promise was just words, words, words? In 1864, trying to end a civil war, Mr. Lincoln signed a paper saying that all slaves would be free. Soon as he let them go, in came the old Jim Crow, and the rest you know is history. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that the promise had only been deferred, but it's a-getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the promise was just words, words, words? In 1945, trying to keep his own alive, Harry Truman told the Japanese, this fighting's gotta stop. Any more lives being spent, he said he would try to prevent. Then he loaded up his atom bomb, said, fellas, let 'em drop. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that peace was always being urged. But it's a-getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the promise was just words, words, words? In 1964, hungry for another war, Lyndon Johnson said a U.S. ship had been hit by the Viet Cong. And though it was a lie, he still sent our boys to die in the name of keeping communism out of Vietnam. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that what ain't democratic ain't preferred, but it's getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that democracy's a word, word, word? In 1982, Ronald Reagan tried and true, said he'd increase public safety, and on crime he waged a war. But for Reagan, being safe had to do with class and race, and most of the folks that he rounded up were young and black and poor. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that the policy was supposed to keep us all secure. But it's getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the policy was just words, words, words? Then in 1992, the war on crime and drugs just grew. Mr. Clinton said he had a plan and that it would be unfurled. Built prisons left and right, filled them practically overnight. Now the U.S. has more prisoners than any nation in the world. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that the lockdown was a bad dream that emerged. But it's getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the lockdown was just words, words, words? 2001, weapons of mass destruction were the excuse Mr. Bush used to reinvade Iraq. though the nukes were never found, well, the country was torn down, and U.S. oil prices fell a little bit after that. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that the reason couldn't have been so absurd, but it's getting late. How long you gonna wait before you admit that the reason was just words, words, words? Now the verses of this song could go on and on and on. The lies my leaders told me are too numerous to name. But I'm a-getting tired and my patience has expired, and as we move into the future, you know the song's gonna stay the same. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suppose that one's government in all things should be just. But it's getting late. How long you gonna wait for you admit if it's gonna be just, it's gonna have to be up to us. Thank you. All right. I think I got a couple more here, one or two more. Let's see. This is another sort of historical song about a theologian named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And he was an interesting figure because he was living in Nazi Germany during World War II, and he got embroiled in this plot to assassinate Hitler. And they actually made a movie out of it. It's called Valkyrie. It had Tom Cruise in it. And I don't think the character of Bonhoeffer was depicted in that film, but that was kind of the plot he was embroiled in. And it didn't work out, but he's always been an interesting figure. Just looking for my pick here. Here it is. So this is the Ballad of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and I stole the melody for this from an old Leadbelly tune called John Hardy, and the melody for that from John Hardy has been used in many other folk songs, including Woody Guthrie used it in, he wrote a song about Tom Joad called The Ballad of Tom Joad, and then Phil Oakes used it also. Anyway, it's a familiar tune, but the words are different. Never had much fortune or fame, but he lived and died a hero to some. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was his name. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was his name. Born and raised on German soil at the turn of the century, he studied hard at the Berlin College, earned himself a theology degree. Yes, he did, earn himself a theology degree. Preached the gospel to the poor and to all them that was not free. When Adolf Hitler came to power, he said, "Friends, this is not how it should be. Friends, this is not how this should be." Silenced on the radio, silenced in the lecture hall. Them Nazis gave him a pretty hard time. He hardly get himself heard at all. Couldn't hardly get himself heard at all. When his anti-Nazi views got known, his friends begged him to please come away. They said it ain't safe for none but Nazis over there. He said, that is why I have got to stay. That is why I have got to stay. He joined a resistance movement underground where he was sworn to secrecy. They made a plot to take Hitler down, called it Operation Valkyrie. Called it Operation Valkyrie. Put a bomb in an old briefcase, got it planted in a meeting room. When Hitler and his generals sat down to talk, that old briefcase went kaboom. Briefcase went kaboom. The explosion killed a man or two, but the attempt to murder Hitler had failed. When Hitler found out who had put the briefcase there, he threw Bonhoeffer and his friends in jail. Threw Bonhoeffer and his friends in jail. There he stayed for a year and a half, writing sermons and letters to the Lord, all the while praying his endless prayer to bring an ending to this awful war, to bring an ending to this awful war. He said, the question ain't how can I escape this mess and still keep my conscience clean. The question is, how can life endure it all if we stand here and don't do anything? If we stand here and don't do anything. Well, the execution orders finally came down April 8th of 1945. The very next day at dawn's first light, they hung Bonhoeffer till he died. Hung Bonhoeffer till he died. Now some folks say that he could have got away if he had only surrendered or lied. Other folks say all he ever did was fail, but at least old Bonhoeffer tried. At least old Bonhoeffer tried. Wherever there's evil men taking power and folks see it and they just don't care. Wherever there's a country getting less free by the hour, the ghost of old Bonhoeffer's going there. The ghost of old Bonhoeffer's going there. Thank you. All right, maybe I'll do one more, and then we'll call it a show. But this has been a true privilege to be here at the Boise Hive. So thanks for having me. Since that last song was, like I said, Woody Guthrie used that melody in his song about Tom Joad. I also wrote a song about Tom Joad with a different melody. But yeah, a lot of these songs are just, stuff I'm reading or have read. So at the end of the Grapes of Wrath, the John Steinbeck book, the character Tom Joad, he accidentally kills this police officer and he has to kind of run for his life. But he makes this speech at the end. He goes in to see his mom right as he's leaving, and he kind of makes this speech to her. And this is basically what he says. Hey Ma, wake up, it's me, it's your boy, Tom Joad. I'd love to, but I can't stay long, I gotta hit the road. In the morning they'll be looking for me, high up and down low. Cops from every county, from Salinas to Frisco. But I only got a minute here, and so I won't make this long. Ain't always done the right thing, hell, sometimes I've been wrong. But as long as I'm gonna be an outlaw from now on, wherever there's a stone unturned, hereby I swear I will be there, I will be there. Wherever you can go to think some lonesome thought, I will be there. I will be there, so help me God. I'm ingredient to humankind, partial to the whole. Though I walk upon the stage of life, I play a minor role. I am portion to the giant, universal human soul, which exists within everybody, everywhere. So I'll be there when you're weary, when you're lonesome and afraid, when the delivery of all that you've been promised ain't been made, when there ain't no superhero to come rushing to your aid, when you got everything to lose and no time to spare. I will be there, I will be there, when the road becomes too narrow and the wilderness too broad. I will be there, I will be there, so help me God. And I'll be in every crevice of this bright world that's gone dark. I'll be in every desperate, hollow, aching, broken heart, long after it's all over and well before it starts. Wherever folks can't go, or else just don't dare. Wherever there's a soldier saying I'm too young to die. Wherever there's a prayer that's being prayed up to the sky. And wherever there's an angry cop beating up some guy, and the fight just don't seem justified nor fair, I will be there, I will be there, when the worry of the guilty that ain't yet been caught. I will be there, I will be there, so help me God. Well, I guess I'd better go now, Ma, 'cause soon it will be dawn. Just like to say I'm sorry for all the screwing up I've done. But just 'cause I ain't here no more, it doesn't mean I'm gone. I'll be with you on every step of every stair. Tomorrow when they come for me, you just tell them I was here. Tell them that you saw me, but that you couldn't see me clear. Tell them I'm the echo that's been whispering in your ear. Tell them if they're looking for me anywhere, I will be there, I will be there. Wherever folks are thirsty and can't find a drop, I will be there, tried or trod, I will be there. Wherever I am wanted, pursued, or sought, I will be there. I will be there, so help me God. Thanks, y'all. All right. Thank you guys for what you do here. Good to unplug. Okay.
I have enough cord here.
Yeah.
Sam, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. You're
Yeah. My pleasure.
I asked you a few questions. How'd you get into music?
I mean, I grew up in a pretty musical family. My dad plays guitar, and my mom is a minister, and always leading. Oh, should I talk into the?
Yeah, right here.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I grew up in a musical family. Both of my parents are pretty musical, and so I started playing guitar back when I was in high school, and that's kind of how I got into it. And I grew up, listening to, my parents were big like Beatles fans, and when I went off to school, I got really into like the old folk music, like Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and all that stuff. So those are kind of my influences or how I came to it.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, that was kind of the next question is, you're just so creative in your lyrics and your rhyming, and you put everything together so well, like so smooth. Where do you get the inspiration? I gathered a lot of books. You're very well read.
Yeah, a lot of stuff I've read. Also, just other songs. I think just listening to artists you admire is a good way to like learn how to write songs yourself. And yeah, so I get a lot of ideas for songs from books and things, but also I just think folk music is like a really great vehicle for words and stories to kind of be transmitted through music. So that's kind of where I lean, and yeah, and people always ask me like, your songs are so wordy, like how do you remember all those words? And I really do think there is something about like if you make the lines rhyme, it's sort of like one line just comes from the next, it comes from the one before it. So I think that there's something to like that, having a rhyme as a mnemonic device, to help you remember. But it's also, once you're telling a story, it's just kind of like imagining. If you just imagine what you're singing about, sometimes you don't even have to think about the words. It's just like, what's the image there,
No, those are really good like songwriting tips, and especially remember. I was thinking the same thing. How does he remember all these lyrics? This is crazy. Other question I was going to ask you. Where do you like? What's next for you? Do you what's the big goal? What's the big? I think you got it, bro. Whatever it is, I think you got it.
Yeah. Well, actually, what's next is my wife just got a job up in Canada, so unfortunately we're going to be leaving Boise.
No.
Yeah, pretty soon. But we've lived here for 4 years, and this has been a great town, and we've got family in town, so we'll be back a lot. But we're gonna be moving up to Alberta, and I think we're just gonna kind of like scope out what the music scene up there is like, and Yeah, and I haven't. I play a lot of like small venues because it's usually just me and a guitar. So that's probably what I'll try to keep doing up there. And really just anything. I love seeing live music too because it's a way to just get more ideas and be inspired. But I'd really just the thing I love most about the whole like songwriting process is the act of writing the song. I get really nervous in front of big crowds.
You can't even tell.
Well, yeah, I'm an introvert, so I'm recharged when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of musicians are like that. Interestingly enough, but so for me, it's like I'm gonna keep writing them, and really the thing I want is I want other people to learn them and like start singing them. That would be like my dream is just to get more people playing some of these songs.
Yeah, your songs they have really catchy hooks. I mean, I started singing along kind of mentally while you were singing. Where can people follow? Where can I follow you? And how do people follow your music?
Yeah, so I do. I did just recently get on Instagram, so I'm on there. Sam STEFFEN Music is the handle. I also have
STEFFEN, STEFFPHAN.
STEFFEN. So I'm on Instagram. That's like where I try to put up when I have a show coming up, and then most of my music is on Bandcamp. That can just be listened to for free there. And I do have a couple albums out on Spotify now. So I'm trying to get more into that because I realize that's just easier for a lot of folks to listen to music that way. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then just to kind of tie it back into the Hive, what would you say? The Hive really helps a lot of people with like kind of mental health issues, or if they're struggling or something. Like, how has music really helped you work through things, or like, what would you say to somebody that's just kind of going through a hard time, or yeah.
Yeah, well, there's the thing I really love about music, and especially folk music, is that there's something inherently social about it. I think if there's a good song that a lot of people relate to, and everybody can kind of relate to the feeling in the song, you automatically feel like you're participating in a community, really, when you're either writing it or singing it. So I think music is really about building community, and I think that can be what's lacking in a lot of people's lives. The world is kind of built to make us feel isolated and lonely, and music is a way to bring people together, I think. So at least that's what it is for me. Yeah, I don't know.
I love that. No, thank you, Sam. Honestly, just thank you so much for sharing your talent, and you're incredible.
Yeah.
We hope that you just go. I think you're going to do great things. And yeah, so thanks for hanging out with us at the Hive, live at the Hive tonight. Super privileged to have Sam STEFFEN with us. Make sure you go give him a follow and buy all his merch, whatever you got out there on Bandcamp. I'm a fan, so that's it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight live at the Hive, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dude, you're so good.
Thanks, man.
You are
Thanks so
amazing.
much. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.